Hi, my name is Will, and this is the 18th video in a series about the DC Comics character Martian Manhunter. Originally, I started making a video covering the Grant Morrison run on JLA and John's other appearances during this time outside of his solo book. It ended up being way too long, so I'm breaking it down into 3 parts. This video will cover stories and aspects of the character over this time, but will not cover everything, just the selected story and some selected characteristics of the Martian Manhunter. Okay. In 1996, there were 3 Justice League titles, and they were not selling well. The books had very different casts than the Silver Age Justice League, or the influential Super Friends cartoon that had extended the reach of these comics. They didn't have Batman or Superman, the 2 flagship DC characters, so DC made a decision to retool the Justice League. They canceled the 3 existing Justice League books and launched a new book, JLA. The title was just the 3-letter acronym. They got Grant Morrison to write it, and he brought back the original founding members. And not the founding members in the post-crisis version of the League, but the original 7 members from the first issue of Brave and the Bold 28, or at least some version of them. This was huge for the Martian Manhunter. He was suddenly appearing along the 6 most popular DC characters, and his own popularity benefited significantly. To launch this new Justice League, they had a special limited series like they had done in the past with Justice League Spectacular. This series was Justice League A Midsummer's Nightmare by Fabian Nicieza and Mark Waid. The core idea was a reversal. The superheroes became normal, and normal people got superpowers. The 7 members of what would be the new JLA are in some form of civilian identity, and they don't know that they were heroes. But over time, they slowly realize who they are, and they try to change things back. But John doesn't have a civilian identity, or at least he didn't at this point. So where was he? It turns out that he was trapped in an Area 51 hangar, being fed a dream of his past. You see John and his wife and daughter in their true Martian forms. They talk about life on other planets, but John is only mildly interested in this and is very focused on being happy with his family. This part feels very true to the DeMatteis origin. John is a simple man who at heart wants nothing more than to be with his family. John is also the last hero to be collected by the JLA. The others need his powers, and they seem to have some recognition that he completes the Justice League, so they seek him out. When they free him, he is incredibly upset and tells them to go away. He chooses the illusion. Batman tries to convince him, but the 2 share such a similar pain, the loss of family, that Batman can't really respond when John asks him what he would choose. Typically, you see stories where the hero rejects the illusion, but this reverses it. John chooses to live a lie because of the depth of his pain. Other League members remark on both how alien he is and how alienated he is, and both of these would be themes for the character. But the hangar he is living his fake life in burns down, and fire is said to be a Martian weakness. This was a reversal of the idea that the weakness was John's and was based on the trauma of watching his wife's body burn. If they wanted to go the psychological weakness route, seeing his wife and child burn a second time would have been very intense and would have reinforced this particular mental trauma. But fire is stated as a weakness of Martians and not the weakness of John. This may have been done because it would be important for the first JLA story. Anyway, the fire destroys his fake family, and John has to relive that loss. He then rejoins the League out of anger at the enemy that has done this to him. And the dignified and cold John is out the window. You see this character in a way you don't normally see him. You see his pain, you see his anger, and you see his power. The Justice League is battling a team of 7 superhumans. John drops their stealth guy first because of his enhanced senses. He then declares his impatient and instantly defeats the other 6 with a single psychic attack. It admittedly takes a lot out of him, but you see that Waid sees John as a very powerful psychic, mainly held back by his own beliefs. He also begins to fit into a new role. He is the team's telepath, and Batman asks him to locate Dr. Destiny, the person behind the manipulation of reality. John is angry at the others, but he still does his duty. John always accepts the responsibility and always does his duty. Well, at least when he can't hide behind an illusion of his dead family. John does, however, take a jab at the other 6 members. John has almost always served the Justice League, while some of the others certainly did not, notably Superman, Batman, and Aquaman. John then scans the entire planet, and you can see again that the depiction of his psychic abilities have significantly increased in power. There had often been hints in some stories about him being a powerful psychic, but Waid gives him a level of power he hadn't really demonstrated before. After scanning the planet, John goes deep into Kyle's mind to pull out hidden information. The Justice League then confronts No Man, the person controlling Dr. Destiny and creating the whole situation. And John is full of rage. Batman is able to calm him because of their shared tragedy, although technically Aquaman has lost family and his tragedy more closely mirrors John's. Then Batman sends John to connect to every human being influenced by Dr. Destiny and take them out of Dr. Destiny's manipulated reality. John succeeds and then uses Wonder Woman's lasso to free the rest of the League from dreams. John then pierces No Man's defenses, and No Man retreats with some cryptic hints about a future threat. The heroes remark on how well they work together, and the new League is born. So back in the Silver Age, John was removed from the Justice League for two reasons. The main one was that he no longer had any solo adventures being published in another comic. The other was that he had a lot of overlap with Superman. Back then, he was basically Green Superman. When he returned to the League, he was never in the League at the same time as Superman, at least outside of his Blood One persona. Also, when he returned to the League, he almost always was in the role of leader or mentor. He was presented as the last founding member, especially as Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman all had their founding member statuses revoked. In the JLA, all this changes. He is no longer the leader, and Superman is on the team with him, as are some of DC's heaviest hitters. He is a powerhouse on a team of powerhouses, so his role on the team undergoes some changes. One of these changes is the increasing focus on his telepathy. This is a power he has that no other member has, so it very much sets him apart. His telepathic abilities seem to get substantially more powerful. In Midsummer's Nightmare, the Justice League seeks him out because of his telepathic powers. John flexes these powers when he defeats an opposing team of super beings with one giant psychic attack, because he is angry and impatient. He then later connects to every human that has been drawn into Dr. Destiny's altered reality and pulls them out of it. So you can see that Mark Waid in this story is really focusing on his psychic powers and the raw strength of these powers. So you see some impressive psychic feats from John. He stops an enraged Spectre and pulls him and the entire Justice League into the core of the mind of the Joker in order to make a point about human nature. Speaking of the Joker, John is able to make him sane, albeit only for a short time. John also demonstrates the beginnings of mind control. He manipulates a space monster's brain to send it away. He can plant suggestions to disperse a crowd of soldiers. He doesn't demonstrate the ability to create illusions, although other Martians do. So, he can use his telepathic powers in a variety of ways. He is able to take control of an organic computer and redirect it. John was able to determine that Superman was not on Earth and able to track him through space. He's also able to instantly absorb telepathic information, like when he immediately understands a dark future and stops Superman before he can make a horrible mistake. He was also able to instantly teach Batman how to use Martian technology, although he could have just been using Martian technology to allow him to do this. He also uses his powers to help shield the Justice League from psychic threats, like when Grodd turns them into apes. He uses his powers to return their minds to them. His psychic powers are not only more powerful and versatile, but he also uses them a lot more. He psychically links the team, becoming a psychic communication hub, allowing the Justice League to easily communicate. He does this all the time, and is something that really starts in the JLA. This psychic communication allows the Justice League to have conversations no matter where they are or what they are doing. So the comic can combine action and conversation more easily because it is reasonable for them to be psychically communicating across the planet while engaged in heroics. John's telepathy also helps exposition in other ways. His abilities reveal information important to the plot of various stories. He might detect something is just a machine, or detect the mental condition of a subject, like when Wonder Woman was in a coma. Or he can ominously note that he is unable to locate someone, or can confirm that someone is okay. When mentally trapped in a fake world, his telepathic skills can figure it out. When the League is trapped in stasis, his telepathy is able to send a message out. But John's telepathy is fallible, and it also acts as a vulnerability. His telepathy acts as a vulnerability when he tries to read the Senat's mind and is hurt by feedback. This happens again when he reads Wonder Woman's mind when she is comatose, and when he reads Superman's mind when he is under the influence of Dominus. His telepathy is also fallible, which is important because otherwise it would ruin too many plots. Dominus is able to trick John's telepathy, as is Antihero, a superhero hunter, and also some random businessman is able to trick him as well. One twist on his telepathy is introduced by Grant Morrison. The idea is that John's shape-changing can alter the nature of his brain, which alters his telepathy. When piloting his spaceship, he returns to his true Martian shape in order to better control it, but he remarks that this will make his thoughts feel different. Another time, he reconfigures his brain to be more chaotic, like the Joker, so he can traverse a maze created by the Joker. This is kind of an interesting intersection of his powers. Again, I'm going to discuss some of the implications of this in future videos. So another impact of not being the leader is that instead of having a leader personality, you get more of a focus on him as an individual character. Now, a lot of his personality does come from his depiction as the leader of the Detroit Justice League during the Jerry Conway years, the leader of Justice League International during the Giffen and DeMatteis years, and the leader of Justice League Task Force during his time with Priest. His role as the kind mentor from Conway's time and the dignified straight man from the Giffen years merges with the enigmatic planner of the Priest years. John is calm, thoughtful, wise, reserved, dignified, but he is also enigmatic and often distant. Part of this is his alien nature. He is always an outsider. He's also further and further from the human experience by his ever-increasing age. Priest had implied that he had lived for centuries. In Team Superman 1, it is said that he is a few thousand years old, so around since the 1950s has grown into thousands of years old. And this notion of being extremely long-lived is also referenced in the Hyperclan story, where Protex talks about the brief lives of humans. In DC 1,000,000, Superman is unnerved by the idea of living so long, and John basically responds, "You get used to it." So part of this calm demeanor is the idea that John is both ancient and ageless. But beneath the reserved exterior of John is also a character with intense tragedy. Few characters can match him for raw trauma. The exact events depend on the particular retelling, but John lost his wife, his daughter, and his entire civilization. While Conway and Giffen didn't seem interested in this aspect of John, DeMatteis and Priest let glimpses of this intense trauma peek through. Mark Waid continues this in Midsummer's Nightmare, where you see John's calm facade fall away after he relives his personal tragedy. You see an enraged John who doesn't hold back. The JLA vs. Titans by Devin Grayson and Phil Jimenez also shows John's veneer break, when Mirage impersonates his wife, presenting her as burning alive. John briefly snaps, dropping Mirage, Arsenal, and Red Star in an instant. But it is only an instant, and he becomes the professional again almost immediately. But you see tears streaming down his face, even as he plans strategy with Batman. And John doesn't hold a grudge at all. He ends the series forgiving Mirage and holding her baby. Morrison himself lets John show brief flashes of anger to show his menace, like when angels come to Earth to hunt down Zariel. But Mark Waid definitely explores the depths of John's anger the most. In JLA 19 by Waid, when reality is being warped, Barbara Gordon is hesitating, and John gets angry because he feels she is sacrificing reality for her own gain. Even when she explains she is doing it for Bruce, John admonishes her, saying that they are both analytical thinkers, and he demands she make the hard decision. This pragmatism is another of John's traits that is especially highlighted by Priest. John is a leader who will try his hardest, but is willing to make the hard calls. In one story by Christopher Priest, members of the Justice League are dying due to being enlarged. John does everything he can to help them, but in the end he is also ready to kill them in order to protect Earth. And you get a great contrast between John and Superman, who declares that he will never let that happen. Superman is an endless font of hope and heroism, while John is a darker figure who is willing to make some hard decisions. In the next video about the Grant Morrison JLA period, I will talk about the Hyperclan story and how Grant Morrison adds to the Martian lore. We'll also talk about John's relationships with some of the other members of the Justice League and how he somehow becomes the designated traitor. If you like these videos, please like, comment, and subscribe to encourage me to keep making them.